What's up, fam? Welcome back to another Black Men in Suits podcast, Urban Nation, The Uncut Truth. I'm your host, Sam J. Let's talk about something that everybody's talking about, or are they talking about the uncut truth? Dating after 40. Let's talk about it. So, of course, I'm going to most definitely speak from a male's perspective, but a male's perspective of a young black man in my mid 40s. And I want to talk about the perspective from a young black man who also dates with a purpose, intention, right? And so, I think this is something that needs to be a little bit more defined because there's so many gray areas that people like to play with, you know. And so when I speak about intentions, I'm talking about you're someone who seeks a mate, purpose. You're someone who understands that mortality is real. And with that being said, the most important thing is the union between two souls. You're someone who operates with that mentality. Now, I think that's going to be a little bit, that's going to confuse a lot of people when we making that statement because many people are operating from their own selfish idealism on life. Now, not always a fault of their own, right? Because some things are really their upbringing, their childhood, what they were taught, what they were around, what they seen, and those things truly can dictate who you are and who you become. But see, this is the whole purpose of the Uncut Truth podcast because we're not talking about. I'm not speaking on anyone or any man that feels that chasing and pursuing and numbers is the way to go. I'm not speaking for any man that feels that a man's supposed to have 1,000 wives. I'm being facetious with that statement, but you get my point. Speaking from a man in his 40s, for those men in their 40s and above who seek a partnership, a mate, a lineage, someone that you two create your own family, your own structure, however that may be, right? Whether it's a blended family or a family that you guys create on your own. I'm speaking for those guys with that mentality. Anything else is uncivilized, period. And I think we need to start putting that out there for jumps and starters. So if you're one of those ladders where you think a man's supposed to have multiple wives, you're one of those ladders where you think the numbers game is where it's supposed to be at for you. And that it's in a man nature to cheat X, Y, and Z. If you're one of those people that think like that, this is not for you. This podcast isn't for you. And I'm going to say that 1,000 times, and I'm going to say that on every episode. But let's talk about dating after 40, man. With a driven mindset, with intentions and purpose. Not guided by societal norms, societal standards, what society say You're supposed to be doing X, Y, and Z. Because here's the problem with that, with society's script. It changes just like the wind. It changes. Every decade, every season, there's something new. So, and thank God we have gotten away from some of the most atrocious things, atrocious, it's a better word, things that went on in the past, and the mindset that was pushed upon a lot of young men and young women. But just speaking on a purposeful person, man, we are out here with a bunch of wolves. And when I say a bunch of wolves, a bunch, more than it needs to be, man, you have to be careful, you know, because you have a social media process that really can take you by surprise, you know, because it keeps your attention. You have access to so many different features and uh, connections than ever before. And I think for a lot of young men and older men as well, I think they find themselves kind of stuck in its matrix of the foolishness. And once you get in, you can't really get out. And there are some people that they just in it, right? They are the matrix. Listen, there are some people that are the matrix. You know who they are. You see them. Do I have to break it down? I don't think I do. But if I had to give it a quick example, those who like to paint a pretty picture, those who are engaging in violence, engaging in ridiculous behavior, treacherous behavior, but then trying to present it as something that should be normalized. Yeah, those are the wolves. Be careful. But once again, if you are someone who is seeking a partnership, a partner, your person, man, it can be tough. It can be tough because you have to truly like when you in the process of dating, you have to really you have to really think of it as dating, a date, getting to know the person. You really have to look at it as that, opposed to we going together, we're courting, right? So like the whole process of courting now is not the same as it was when we was younger, right? When we was younger, you know, you met someone and it was you too. It was just you and that person. Y'all was instantly courting each other, right? Unless you had somebody that was scandalous. Again, we're not talking about those people. Um, but even now, so many women and so many men are shunning away from, or shall I say, you know, I think there's multiple facets of it. I think there's people who are scared of love. I think there are people who are intimidated by the possibility of it now, right? You know, and I think these things could be based off of their experiences and heartbreak, you name it. And that's okay. But like For example, I'll give you a quick example. Here in 2026, I met a I met a woman that said that it's, I don't date long distance. And and our conversation was kind of quick because we don't even really know each other like that. But I'm like, long distance? Yeah, we're 6 hours apart. How the fuck is that long distance? Whatever. But at the same time, I also get it, right? Because I know that speaks one or two things. It's either that you weren't interested at all, and you didn't have the heart to say how you're not interested, right? Because I consider myself a handsome guy, so it ain't nothing you can say to me to make me, there's nothing you can say to me on any kind of aspect for me to be like, you know, I'm down and out because you don't like me. None of us are everybody's cup of tea. Or she may legitimately mean that. But at this big age, how immature is that mindset? If you're truly looking for a partnership, if you're truly looking for your person, how is a 6 hour difference that's just a drive? How is that a deterrent for finding love? Make the shit make sense to me. But like I said before, it's either she wasn't interested in the beginning, but she tried to use that as a way to be like, right? Or she's extremely still immature in the mindset, and you wanted somebody within arm's reach. That tells me a lot about what your what their mindset when it comes to dating truly means, and that may not necessarily be a good thing, right? Um, but yeah, here in 2026, that's what we got going on in 2026. Still, at this big age, at this big age, I'm meeting women who, at this big age, 40 plus, right, are prison wives. And I'm saying prison wives, but they're not necessarily married, but they've resorted to dating dudes who are in prison. It's gotten that bad. It's gotten that bad. And ain't no telling how long these sentences are. They dating dudes in prison. I get it. Social media kind of showed us this train wreck, right? Because reality TV, because they started giving us these shows, right? What is it? What's one of those? Love After Lockdown, something like that. And but you have that, and it's not because there's a shortage of good free men. It's not that. I think there's a lot of psychological things going on with a lot of people that they're afraid to admit, and it's kind of like, because we are afraid to admit it, you know, we wind up waddling ourselves into situationships that don't serve us a greater purpose, or the purpose that we're truly desiring, you know. But those are just one of kind of the two examples I just want to throw out there. But there's so much more that I could speak on. And it is so sad to see the way the human mindset is, even at this big age. Like you would think that people would have put away childish things and childish mindsets and childish operations. But I think that is no longer a age requirement or age limit for that ideology. I think that just if that's something that's embedded in you as a human being, you're more than likely stuck with that the rest of your life. And you're gonna always operate like that unless you mature. And I think maturity needs a whole new understanding as well. Because I think like maturity is the same way as a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. And I think we got so many people who are just still caterpillars, even in their life at their big age, still caterpillars, still crawling. Never stop to truly pause, reset, reform, and rebuild. You know, and a lot of that has a lot to do with the mind control that's going on in our society with, you know, entertainment is concerned because it's keeping people into a immature mentality. So because of that, you got women who are in their 50s still shaking their ass on social media, showing their ass crack on social media. Make this shit make sense, huh? They got children and grandchildren and showing their ass. But then these people get to be a part of that conversation of, and this will go for men and women, because there's dudes doing the same shit now. But then they chime in on the conversations of what is available and what's not available, good this and good that, and and we allow that. We allow those people to be a part of those conversations, adding more fuel to the fire than it needs to be. Because listen, if you don't operate in modesty, if you don't operate in dignity, respect for yourself, respect for your children, respect for, your loved ones, your partners, X, Y, and Z, you do not get to covet what is presented or given as a token of your dedication. You don't covet that. If you out here cheating on your spouse, sleeping with this and that person, man, you don't get to covet what dedication is. You don't get to covet what respect is. You don't get to covet what dedication, loyalty. You don't get to covet that. You don't get to be a part of that conversation, but we're allowing these people to be a part of that conversation. And I think the worst of it all is that many people want love, even those who are treading the fence. They're good people, but because of their past, because of their hurt, they kind of treading that fence, right? And those people, they show a lot. So I give you an example of those that kind of person. They a lot of times are those who face value. They look apart. But then their actions speak volumes. You know, no reciprocity, no words effort, no word, no. They don't speak value into you because they're operating off of a selfish mentality. It's all about what you can do for them, right? And it's easy to pick them, you know. It's very easy. You have to sit still. You have to watch. You have to observe. Because listen, at the end of the day, what you give to others, you deserve the reciprocity of that as well. Okay? And if you ever have to rethink a situation, it was meant for you to rethink it. And it's okay. As much as it may hurt, as much as it may pain you to be like, oh, that's my girl, though, that, you know, whatever. Man, look, let it go. Because at the end of the day, you have to stay on a path of righteousness when it comes to what you desire. You have to stay on that path, man. You can't steer away from it, and you can't let nobody steer you away from it either. Because I promise you, at the end of it all, when you receive your blessing, man, it's gonna be well worth it, 1,000%. You can't give up either. You know, you can't give up and give out. You can't let what others, how they live their life, how they absorb their life, how they see life dictate how you operate, right? You got to stay true to you. But yeah, dating after 40 is a motherfucker. Because even at this big age, I'm 45, even at this big age, you still see so many immature adults. And it's very saddening. It's sickening, to be honest. Because you begin to understand why there are so many different things in the headlines that we see. You begin to understand why there's so many different crash outs. You begin to understand why there's so many different things that goes on that seem like, oh, it was looking this way, it was looking that way. How? Yeah, because there's still too many people who are trying to live their childhood in their adult years. Most important, man, y'all be safe out here and stay tuned to part two. Because I got a lot of more to tell you about. Urban Nation, the Young Cut Truth.